Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, or Brazos UU for short. My name is Darby Lockridge, and I'll be serving as your worship assistant today. I come to this church because Unitarian Universalism is my soul home. And Unitarian Universalist congregations are a place where I can always feel welcome and welcome to grow and share and develop in my Unitarian Universalist faith. We're a welcoming congregation, which means that we celebrate and welcome all people of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. We also strive to welcome people across diversities of race, age, ability, immigration status, and belief. So whoever you are and wherever you have come from, wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcome here. We encourage everyone to visit our website, brazos-uu.org. During this time of pandemic and in the midst of our planned building project, the website and our weekly services are our church home. If you might like to contribute your musical talents, if you have a great story to share about your life's journey, or if you have a passion for social justice, we'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in getting involved, you can find opportunities on our website. To learn more about our community and what is happening, you can join our email list and our monthly newsletter, and you can also find us on social media by searching UUCBV. Our service today is about building a community. We're preparing for our stewardship season and budgeting by remembering that our resources are a tangible show of where our feelings lie.
Our call to worship this morning comes from the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. To worship means to consider that which has worth. Today we consider with gratitude the many gifts of this community. The opportunity to be affirmed in who we are and to offer that affirmation to others. The chance to stand up together to help remake the world in the ideal of justice. The freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others. The space to expand one's own spirit and to reconnect after busy or humdrum weeks with the sustaining truths of one's life. Regular reminders that we must see our world through the lens of love and the aspiration to consider all life as precious. For if all of it is made of stardust, how can it not be wondrous? So this morning, let's welcome all of these gifts with gratitude, for they have been paid for with many currencies. The blood of the martyrs who died so that we can be free in our religion. The sweat of those who persisted in justice's name against hostility and adversity. The tears of those who struggled to build better lives for those in this life. The questions of our children as they understood the world anew and offer their understanding to us as a fresh lens. The laughter and joy of those giddy with the embrace of community, the dollars and cents of those who gave what they could and then stretched a little more. The infinite small acts of service that make the parts greater than the whole, done by those who knew themselves in sympathy with our purposes. So today we consider with gratitude and humility what it means to pay forward what has been paid forward to us. And now, with all of this, let us enter into worship with gladness in our hearts.
I invite you to light your own chalice if you have one, as I light our chalice today. Please say our chalice lighting words with me. We light the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, as a beacon of hope for all, who seek justice, dignity, and compassion, and in celebration of the life of truth and meaning we share together. Now, all please join me in saying our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. I'm Rob McGeehan, co-chair of the Building Fund campaign. I come to you this morning to talk about why Leela and I are donating a legacy gift of $30,000 to the Building Fund campaign. As a frugal Scot, I am rising to the Appelt's Matching Funds Challenge, and so essentially doubling our money. We have found the UUCBV to be a progressive religious home here in Bryan College Station for the last 45 years. We raised our son Tavis in this congregation, and now he and his wife are active members of the First UU Church of San Antonio. We want to make a substantial legacy gift to aid in the completion of our new church home and continue the missions of the UUCBV. The funds for this donation are an inheritance from my grandparents, and it is part of our legacy from them. The UUCBV Building Fund campaign is a fitting use for these legacy funds, so I appeal to you to consider making a similar contribution to the Building Fund. I encourage all of you to join us in giving to the Building Fund campaign until it makes you feel good.
Rejoice both far and near.
Our time for all ages today is a story by Teresa Honey Youngblood. It's called Green Beans. I want to tell you something about the June garden. Not about the knee-high rainbow shard or the hot pink zinnias, though both are splendid. Look closer beneath heart-shaped leaves, hiding parallel to their own twining vines, are the humble treasures of early summer, the green beans. In the early 2000s, when I got serious about growing a significant amount of my family's food, I signed up for a plot at the Florida A&M University Community Garden, where I then lived in Tallahassee, Florida. The FAMU Community Garden is one of the oldest community gardens in the country, and it's run by the historically black university. I was one of only a few white gardeners. There were 2 Asian American women, and the other gardeners were all black. On my first day, I pulled up in my beat-up little Volvo, toddler in tow, and gazed out at the huge 40-foot by 40-foot expanse, spade in hand, but having no idea where to begin. Mr. Rose from 2 plots over, he saw me standing there. "Start with green beans," he called out. "They're forgiving, and they build up your soil." I would later find out that with care and attention over the years, he himself had built his soil right up out of one type, red clay, and into another, rich loam. The next week, he came over to my plot with his tiller. The week after that, he helped me hook up an irrigation system made from recycled parts. "We help each other around here. That's how we do," he said. Everything that came up in his garden was a foot higher and a sight denser than the neighboring plots, and often I'd overhear other gardeners sitting on the tailgates of their trucks in the car pass and chatting with Mr. Rose about football. Sneak in a question here and there about how his vegetables grew so fine. He would rib them a little bit first, but then share advice and offers of assistance freely. "Most of us give away much more than we eat, but that's about how it ought to be," he said. I was shy and awkward most of that first year, never able to fully relax into Mr. Rose's warm hospitality. I watched, listened, and learned, but didn't really form friendships, unable to get past my worries about saying or doing the wrong thing, as often the only white person in an energetic, bustling, new to me, mostly black space. That was my loss. When we moved the following summer, I took with me that regret, many lessons on food growing, and a very deep appreciation at having witnessed and experienced firsthand the welcoming of the stranger. As we enter into the marking of a full year now of pandemic, a year of being physically apart, I invite you, as you hear the words to follow, to remember the times we have been together in the same physical space, and to look forward to the future in which we will gather once again. I now share these words from Barbara Peskin, our prayer today. It's titled, "A Prayer for Those Gathered in Worship." In this place, listen to the sounds of breathing, of creaking chairs, shuffling feet, clearing throats, and sighing all around. Know that each breath, movement, the glance meant for you or intercepted, holds a life within it. There are signs that we choose to be in this company, have things to say to each other, things not yet said, but in each other's presence still. Trembling behind our heart's doors, these doors closed but unlocked, each silent thing waiting. On the threshold between unknowing and knowing, between being hidden and being known. to find silence among these people and listen to it all. Breathing, sighs, movement, holding back. Hear the tears that have not yet reached their eyes. Perhaps they are your own. Hear also the laughter building deep where joy abides, despite everything. Listen, rejoice, and say Amen. And now in that spirit, I invite you to join in a time of silence. And even in your own home, I invite you to listen for the sounds that come out of the silence. Join me. May it be so. Each week in this time together, we take a moment to share those joys and concerns, those sorrows, those milestones that are most on our hearts and minds. If you have something to share, you're welcome to do so in the chat box right now and in the time moving forward. Know that whether you share here or not, all of this is held by our community together. We have a few things to lift up specifically this week. For those still recovering from the ice storm and loss of power all across Texas, we pray. For those who are experiencing the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, for those who are ill, for those who have lost loved ones, now 500,000 in the United States, we pray. We give thanks for all of those who are out there doing the good work of building beloved community, whether that's helping to get people vaccine shots, or making sure they have enough food to eat, or the plumbers and their helpers out there repairing burst pipes. We give thanks for your work. We value you. In our community, we remember each week that Black lives matter as we strive for justice, equity, and anti-racism in all we do. We also want to continue to work to be better allies of our LGBTQ neighbors and friends, and for those in our community who are a part of that group, we give thanks for your presence here. If you haven't yet shared, there's still certainly time to do so in the chat. Again, whether you share or not, all of you and your concerns and joys are held in this community. Amen. Our reading today is from the Reverend Burton D. Carley. It was written a few years ago, but its relevance is still very high. It's called Reflections from the River. He writes, "Since the economy is kind of a black hole, I was interested to read that researchers using NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope have traced the building blocks of the universe back one more step, and it leads to massive black holes in space. Now we know the Earth did not spring out of thin air, but is essentially recycled matter and higher elements. The story of Genesis then gets it right in the sense that we truly come from dust, space dust. But where did that dust come from? Many galaxies have a black hole at their center, and researchers for the first time were able to see how a supermassive black hole in a galaxy 8 billion light years from ours was shooting out winds carrying dust composed of complex elements. The theory then is that black holes suck in simple gases at high velocity, where they collide and are superheated, fusing together to form complex molecules and grains of dust. Thrust back into space, the dust eventually collects and forms stars and planets with the chemical compounds from which things like life can form. So from chaos come the building blocks of creation. It's something good to remember when spiritual storms are brewing inside our lives and also outside in our environment. How do we endure chaotic times? It seems counterintuitive, but it is through praise that we bear our transformations. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke understood this so well in the following poem, translated by Albert Ernest Fleming. Oh, tell us, poet, what is it you do? I praise. But in the midst of deadly turmoil, what helps you endure? How do you survive? I praise. And that which nameless is, anonymous, how do you, poet, still call out to them? I praise. Who grants you your right to pose in any guise, wear any mask, and still remain sincere? I praise. And that the stillness and the violence, like the star and storm, know and acknowledge you. Because I praise. We survive our deepest struggles because the human spirit rose from the dust with the possibility of joy and praise. It is why we come to church. So ends our reading.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
There's a shrine still on the top of Mount Udo, where it has been for 2,000 years, though it's been rebuilt many times. This shrine is simple, just a torii gate, the distinctive Japanese gates with 2 rising beams and 1 crossbeam. The gate is thought to be at the place where Ame no Uzume no Mikoto descended from heaven to earth, and there she met Saratahiku no Okami. So about a decade ago, I had the chance to go to Japan. I won a scholarship, the Tsubaki Grand Shrine Scholarship, to spend a few weeks at Tsubaki Grand Shrine, which is one of the largest and oldest Shinto shrines in Japan. Shinto is the native religion of Japan, and it's closely tied to the earth and the sea and the sky there. It includes the worship and the veneration of many gods and great spirits called kami. Indeed, the word Shinto literally means way of the kami. And if you were in religious education this morning, you heard me talk quite a bit about Shinto. As I said, it's the native religion of Japan. It's practiced there by almost everybody to varying degrees. And it had a powerful effect on me when I was there. I learned so much. I got to experience a completely different culture. I experienced so many new things, and I was warmly welcomed there by the priests and other workers of the shrine. And I got to see a little bit of Japan around it too, though most of my time was spent at the shrine. One of the things I learned most there was about a sense of place. Though Tsubaki is located in a place that was very unfamiliar to me, it was clear how deeply rooted it is in that place. The shrine has been there for 2,000 years. The original shrine at the top of the mountain and the new shrine, which has been there for centuries, now down near the foot of the mountain. It's so tied to that place. The water from Mount Udo flows down in a stream past the shrine. There's no other place on earth where it could be. Even though Tsubaki, which is much more progressive than most Shinto shrines, has actually commissioned and has started a shrine here in America too. It's in Washington State, and you can visit it sometime, Tsubaki Grand Shrine America. But the sense of place is so important in Shinto. Where you are from really matters. Now, though again, that's not the place I'm from, I did relate so strongly to the sense of place and of home. I grew up in the same house for all of my childhood in downtown, in central Austin. And I still identify so closely with that. I think a lot of us who grew up or have spent many, many years in Texas identify strongly with Texas as our home. We have a strong sense of the identity of the place in which we have lived, in which we have grown up, in which we've raised families or done our life's work. That sense of place really matters. A real sense of being grounded in a place and a time and a community. And that's something here in this pandemic world of Zoom meetings and emails and social media that it can sometimes be hard to find. The sense of, where am I? Am I more than just this room in which I meet with people all day long? Am I out there in the cyberspace somewhere, flitting about? Those are real things. But here's what I know too. Community is more than a place. It's a people and a time and a relationship. So as our congregation is between physical homes, the one on Welborn that we loved so much, that was our home for so long, and the one soon to come in Bryan, I think of what it means to have a sense of community as a place we are. It's more than the physical space we occupy, certainly, but that's important too. I still think warmly of these Zoom meetings we are in, even though they sometimes feel divorced from physical space. It's good to see faces. It's good to see people. It's good to be together even in this way. how do we bring that feeling forward in our lives? How do we have a sense of place? How do we have a sense of community? I think of the time 15 years ago when I first entered into this community. I think of the people I first met, of Sharon Boston, who was the first one to welcome me here, of our ministers we've had in that time, of Eric Poza, who was my minister and who I still count among my friends. I think of the experiences I had in our former campus, of teaching religious education classes, of leading worship, of singing in the choir, of meals shared together in our space. There's that sense of community that the place was so important to, but the community continues on. Even as I work remotely, I feel so deeply connected to each and every one of you. Now, in this time in which we have building projects and soon our stewardship campaign, I want to talk about supporting that too. It does take money, it takes our love, it takes our effort. Physical spaces don't happen by themselves. They don't continue. Electricity bills can't be paid in love, unfortunately. And so it behooves all of us to think about how important this community, how important a sense of place it is for us as we think about how we can best support the community moving forward. All of us have found such powerful experiences here. I think of the community that took me in and challenged me and welcomed me and supported me through difficult times, that wanted the best for me and that was so supportive when I made the decision even to move away, that was best for me. I would not be the person I am today. I would not be a minister. I probably would not have the family I have today if not for this community. I'll treasure that time always, and it's still important for me to be a part of this community, now as your interim minister, but also still as a member of the community. It's been so valuable to have this time together, to spend, to think about what our community's future will be, what its past has been, what its presence is. It is so important to have a sense of home. And that's one of the things I learned from Tsubaki too. Even families that have moved away to different parts of Japan or around the world come home to Tsubaki. They come there to have a child blessed, to have a new car blessed is one of the popular things that's done there. They come back because that's the place where they find home. In this community, I always feel welcomed. I always feel like there's a place for me. And that's something that is worth more than I can ever pay. I want to encourage each of you to think about how much this community is worth to you. As we move into the season of budgeting and stewardship, we'll ask you to put a number on that at some point. And it's a thing that can't be numbered, of course. Hopefully this is more valuable to you than anything you could possibly do to support it. So instead, I want to ask you to do what you can. I know that this is difficult times for some of us, and others of us have been blessed beyond measure. So all of us will have different things that we can do. As we talk to you about the future, about our future new campus, about next year and how the budget will shape that, I encourage you to think about how you can give until it feels good. So in coming weeks, we'll talk to you about stewardship more, and we're wrapping up the building campaign as well. So think about how important this community is, how it has been a sense of home for you, and what you can do to support its future, so that we might provide a sense of place and home for generations to come. May it be so.
If we were having worship service in person, this is the time when we would pass the basket. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. This month, we're proud to continue our support for the Brazos Valley Food Bank. If you wish to make an offering, you can mail your check, or for your convenience, you can donate online. Our homepage at brazos-uu.org will show you our mailing address at the bottom, and at the top you'll see a Donate Here link. We'll also be dropping that link in the chat box now. May each of us look into our hearts. How much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope is there? We give thanks for these gifts we have given, for those we receive, and for each other.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens, still with me abide, when other helpers fail and comforts flee. Help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changes not, abide with me. We need each other every passing hour, channels of grace and life affirming power, faithful companions share this path with me. Through all our fears and hopes, abide with me.
Now please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again.
If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church cannot survive without your faith, your confidence, your enthusiasm. Its destiny, The larger hope rests in your hands. Our worship is ended and our service begins.